Before we start this video, let's give a quick shout out to my guy Ren Akatsuki U8Q. Bro has been begging me for the past 5 months. 5 months to do Croods. First of all, thank you very much for watching my videos for that long. And second of all, welcome to the Croods. We begin with a story told to us by this girl named Ip. She's a member of a family of these cave creatures called the Croods. So basically, in those days, before cooking, the pyramids and slaves, there were cavemen. Now, as a child of God, I don't believe in evolution. I think it's bullshit. However, for the sake of this video, I'm just going to indulge you guys. So, long time ago, there were cavemen. The Croods were one of them, and there were other families of cavemen. However, since
it's an evil world we live in,
every other family died for whatever reason, apart from the Croods, because father is strong and they always managed to hide. However, because of the geological changes on Earth at that time, they will soon be forced out of their cave. And that's what the movie is all about. So, we officially meet the Croods, who are out looking for food, completely ignoring these creatures that have been conveniently placed outside of the entrance of their caves. Instead, scaring them all away, apparently because these guys have not evolved brain cells yet. That one is a later update, version 5.0. We are introduced to the rest of the family: Mrs. Crood, Sandy, Thunk, Grandma Crood, and Grog, or Mr. Crood. So after scaring the local meat population away, the Croods journey far and wide and almost get themselves killed, all for the sake of this egg that doesn't even go round.
Oh, that's all right. I ate last week.
Yeah. I ate last week. Lord have me, oh boy. Omo, thank God say they no bomb me for that year. Oh. I ate last week. Anyhow, after eating, the sun begins to go down. So, because darkness is dangerous, all of them proceed to retreat into the cave. Apart from Ip, who doesn't like the cave. So she takes her damn time and almost gets herself and her father killed. Then Mr. Crood begins to worry about why Ip is suddenly acting up. However, Mrs. Crood tells him not to worry. So he ignores it and tells them all a story about this bear that oddly resembles Ip, who died because of curiosity. And then they sleep. Then during the night, Ip sees this mysterious light and follows it outside the cave, which leads her to fire and this other human called Guy. And this is pet sloth called Belt. Anyhow, Guy informs Ip that he's trying to escape from this destruction that he calls the end. Basically, the geological activity that we spoke of earlier. Land dividing to become continent, all that shit, yeah. So, in order to escape this destruction, Guy wants to get to higher ground. However, he asks Ip to follow him, but she decides not to, so he gives her this shell to call him. That is if she survives, and then he dips out. Ip is then later discovered by her father, who scolds her for leaving the cave all by herself. Ip then informs the others about Guy. However, they all get scared and even proceed to break the shell that, he gave her because, they are afraid of new things. In their mind, new is dangerous and all that. That's basically how they have survived so far. And a lot of you guys may call that shallow-minded and all that shit. But if you take into account how niggas used to die in those days, you can kind of see why Mr. Crood lives the way he does. So Ip gets into this argument with Mr. Crood about why, everything that is new isn't always dangerous. And then when the family are on their way back to the cave, the destruction that Guy spoke about finally comes. Then Grog proceeds to save his family, who are presently homeless. So they venture into this jungle in order to find another domot. On their way, they get chased by this tiger thing who leads them out here, but proceeds to run away when it gets dark because of the presence of these demon birds who come out at night and feed on living creatures. So they're about to eat the Croods. However, Ip manages to call Guy, who comes and saves them all with fire. So Guy introduces fire to the Croods. However, they're still on version 4 point something, so yeah. The Croods decide to imprison Guy and keep him with them so that he can keep making fire for them. However, because the end is following them closely, Mr. Crood decides to head for the same mountains Guy wants to go to. So they begin their journey. However, on the way, everybody is hungry. So Mr. Crood decides to take a pause and, hustle food for the family. However, the animal know they too greedy, so they decide to settle for shit. Yeah, that's nasty, bro. However, Guy no one follow them chop shit, so the guy decides to, set a trap for the bird and, actually kills it.
Sensational.
So when they don't chop finish, Mr. Crude decides to tell them another one of his shit stories aimed at throwing unnecessary shade at certain members of his family. So Guy comes and tells them a better story that they enjoy more, and Groog begins to get jealous of Guy. So the next day they proceed, and Guy escapes from the Croods and almost leaves on his own. However, seeing that they are in their brainless states, he decides to help them on the condition that they allow him to walk freely. So Mr. Crude, who could be a Viltrumite at this point, kicks the lock into orbit and partners up with Guy. Anyhow, Guy helps them by giving each one of them prehistoric Air Force Ones. So now they're all dripped out and they proceed on an adventure to the mountain, discovering new things along the way and having fun, all except for Grog, who just gets more and more jealous of Guy. So when they get to the mountain, Grog tries to tell everybody to hide in a cave. However, they don't want to hide in the caves anymore because Guy has showed them the joys of living outside. So they want to follow Guy now. And because of that, Grog now becomes jealous and tries to kill Guy, but he ends up getting both of them stuck inside this tar pit, which was the same thing that killed Guy's family earlier. And they bond in the tar pit and make up for their mistakes, apologize to each other, and hatch a plan to escape, using strategic sexual arousal to influence this tiger from earlier to pull them out of the tar. And it actually works. So they all end up following Guy to higher ground. However, when they make it there, they waste precious time admiring the sun and other random shit that is happening instead of running to the other side. And because of this, in the end, they don't even make it across. So Groog decides to eat his entire family over the ledge. Prime upper body strength right there. How would you like to participate in our 1v100? We need men like you on the front lines. Just imagine Batman, Mr. Crude, Deadpool, Captain America, all on the front lines. Now them go start the fight first. So after they don't reduce the gorilla HP to like below 20, then the rest of us can now come and finish work. Easy dub right there. You see, you have to think. These things take brain capacity. How can I be carrying 100 normal human beings to a gorilla fight? I decrease. You self think I'm now. So anyhow, Groog has just saved his family. However, since there is no one to eat him over the edge, bro decides to re-strategize and enter back into a cave where he runs into this tiger thing from earlier. Bro's gonna end up looking like this. Now, I'm only kidding. It turns out the cat is just as scared as Mr. Crude. So it comes to him seeking help. And our boy Grog finally evolves last minute. Bro has installed the updates. He's now version 5.0 intelligence. Then he hatches a plot to help them all escape. He gets this rib cage, covers it with tar, and lures these demon birds into the tar so that the birds will get stuck on the cage and make it fly. Then Grog, saves a bunch of animals and uses the fire to guide the birds so that they carry him and all of the animals across to the other side. And they all get there safe and sound, reunite with the family, and everybody lives happily ever after without fear and following the light. If you've watched it to this point, thank you so much. Don't forget to follow the IG. My boy Renakatuki 8Q. Wait, let me see this again. Renakatuki UHQ. Hope you enjoyed the video. Shout out to all my new subscribers and those of you guys that have been sticking around since day one. I'm going to try to be taking recommendations from you guys in the coming videos. So of course, don't forget to leave these recommendations in the comments. I actually read every one of them. And have a wonderful week ahead.